Hi, and welcome to the Paddock Experience, a podcast for you Formula One fans. I'm Jordan Lewis, and alongside me is Greg Foreman, and I'm glad you could join us on our first episode of the 2014 year. Having said that, there's some things we'll be discussing throughout this podcast. We'll be talking about the new and upcoming rookies and where they're going on what teams and our expectations for their year. The team lineups and switches with drivers going from team to team. We'll also be talking about the track changes and rearrangements of the schedule this year, and also a few staff changes. And we'll also be talking about the new cars. We switched to a V6 this year, and we'll be discussing the changes in aerodynamics and engines. Let's get right into it. There's two new faces, two young drivers who will be joining the F1 circuit this year. The first one is Kevin Magnussen of Denmark, who will be driving for McLaren, and the second is Danny Quaid of Russia, who will be driving for Toro Rosso, taking Ricciardo's spot.
Yeah, we've heard a few things from Kevin in some interviews, not so much from Danny, but Magnussen believes that McLaren is the right team for him as a rookie, compares himself to Hamilton when he started out there. He thinks that the changes in the car will actually help him level the playing field with everybody else's experience in the car. So everybody has a new car, him included, so he really thinks he can do well at the powerhouse team of McLaren.
Yeah, as far as Lewis Hamilton following him, he does have some shoes to fill, but not as far as Perez. I mean, he didn't really accomplish much there last year, so it's not like he's got big shoes to fill, but it'll definitely be interesting to see, how he develops along with the team and how the team develops along with a young technical driver. So, because we all have some changes this year with the new engines and, cars that don't have so much power.
Yeah, and it seems like a few other teams have changed things up. We mentioned Red Bull losing Mark Webber, in his place Danny Ricciardo, alongside Sebastian Vettel. Mercedes stays the same. They have Lewis Hamilton and Nico Rosberg. Ferrari adds a somewhat controversial pick in Kimi Räikkönen to go alongside Fernando Alonso. We'll talk about that in just a second. At Lotus, Roman Grosjean stays on the team and is joined by Pastor Maldonado. McLaren has Jenson Button along with the rookie. Force India sees the return of Nico Hülkenberg from 2 years ago. Alongside him will be Sergio Perez, who was outed at McLaren for the new rookie. Sauber keeps their last year's rookie with Esteban Gutierrez, alongside Adrian Sutil, who I thought did a really nice job last year at Force India. Toro Rosso, we talked about Danny alongside John-Eric Vergne. At Williams, Felipe Massa from Ferrari is joining the team this year, alongside last year's rookie Valtteri Bottas. Marussia only has one confirmed driver in Jules Bianchi, and Caterham has no drivers picked this year yet.
Yeah, it definitely sucked to be Caterham, not know who you're going to sign or not have any confirmed drivers going into this year, especially with these new cars coming up. Got to get some testing.
An interesting note is Eddie Jordan made some predictions for the 2014 season, and so far he's been spot on, 100% really. He made those in November. So if that's anything to go by, Caterham might have a new rookie named Marcus Ericsson. That's not confirmed or anything, but that seems to be the way they're looking. Also under the radar for Caterham could be Heikki Kovalainen, who raced the last two races last year for Lotus. So he could be in the driver's seat for him. We'll see. About probably in a month or so, we'll see who the confirmed drivers are for both teams.
Getting back to the exciting pair, the two drivers for Ferrari, Fernando Alonso and Kimi Räikkönen. Have you heard any sort of confirmation on who's the number one or number two?
Well, I think at Ferrari it seems as though there's no one or two. The team is number one, and that's who you drive for. They've made it pretty clear in statements to the media that both drivers drive for the team and not themselves. They said that should they want to drive for themselves, they need to move to another team. So the name Ferrari is what they want to see on the podium, no matter whose hands the trophy's in. So
hopefully we don't have any problems taking instruction or any sort of thing like that.
Yeah, I think there might be some interesting radio transmissions online this year, especially given the fact that on a team like Lotus, we had some quotables from Kimi. So we'll see about this year.
Yeah, I don't think anything can be as bad as Sebastian and Weber. I mean, that was some ridiculous stuff throughout the season with Vettel, disregarding his commands from his, chiefs and engineers. I could imagine for Raikkonen it'll be a good experience, well, not necessarily an experience, but, a great opportunity to get back to a team he used to be on with familiar faces, and also just a, well-standing car, reliable car. Even though they've changed to a V6, they definitely know how to create race cars, so there's nothing to worry about as far as, huge problems.
Yeah, it seemed like some people speculated as to why he left, and he kind of shot that down from last year at the media. So he seems like he's going to enjoy himself back at Ferrari. No one really knows why he was bought out, but in any case, he's back there racing for him. Ferrari have also stated that as far as reliability, like you were talking about, the main advantage is that they have their chassis and their engine all built in the same factory. So instead of shipping over an engine for a team to bolt onto their chassis and hoping it works just right, they can go back and forth with their engineers between the two and make changes for the whole car all at once, instead of waiting on one part or the other.
Another headline that I think kind of flew under the radar here, and for us Mercedes fans, I guess I'm not a huge Red Bull fan, but anyone who can beat Red Bull and anyone who can bring good racing to Formula One, I'm kind of a fan of. But a headline that made it under the radar is Mercedes will gain 2 Red Bull engineers. The 2 engineers are Mark Ellis. He'll become the performance director at AMG. Gilles Wood will take up the position of chief engineer and simulation and development there at Petronas. So,
well, neither of those guys are named Adrian Newey, so I don't know how much of effect they can add to their car. It might be better for strategy. They might have that kind of stuff, but everyone knows there's a few designers you want on your team, and neither of those, with all due respect to them, neither of those are Adrian Newey.
Yeah, it's for sure that Adrian definitely gives Red Bull wings. So, maybe these two can bring some, insight and expertise, and just enough to get that, competitive edge this year to at least keep up with Red Bull. So,
well, in all honesty, if Mercedes gains as much as they did between 2 seasons ago and next season, they're going to beat everyone. People question Lewis Hamilton when he switched over to Mercedes, but getting pole position in the first 3 races for Lewis and Nico is a huge step up for them. So if they make any type of progress similar to what they did last year, they're going to do really well this year, and they will be the ones to take the fight to Red Bull like they were, and Lotus as well. Worth noting, they took the fight to Red Bull late in the season.
Yeah, the Mercedes definitely has 2 top-notch drivers, and as far as I'm concerned, the 2 best drivers on the track as far as experience and knowledge and just being kind of a wise driver. When you have Nico Rosberg and Lewis Hamilton in the cockpits of the Mercedes as opposed to Vettel and Ricciardo in the Red Bull cockpits, Ricciardo's good, but I don't think he can replace Webber. And when I say that, I do mean that Red Bull may or may not be contending for a Constructors' Championship this year. I don't think they can get 1 and 2 and keep that consistent throughout the season. I don't think Ricciardo's good enough, even though it's a great car and there's definitely development changes, going from Toro Rosso to actual Red Bull factory. I don't think it's going to be enough.
Well, I mean, an interesting note is Ricciardo in the Abu Dhabi test that Pirelli held for all the teams after the Mercedes debacle, he set the fastest time. It wasn't in the Red Bull, but it was in his Toro Rosso. There were some top drivers still there, so who knows what he can do. If he throws down 100% laps, he can be up there, especially in a car like a Red Bull chassis.
Yeah, I mean, there definitely is potential. There's a reason they went for him there, so you can't completely deny that. It's hard to say. For me, I don't think he's going to be filling Webber's shoes. I don't think it was intentional for that to happen right away. He is a Red Bull junior driver. He did come from Red Bull. So it is nice to keep it in the family. Like, those are the intentions, and there is a reason he's there. But they are definitely going to have Mercedes and Ferrari barking at their heels all season, that's for sure.
Well, let's talk about some more changes for the 2014 season. Highlights will be the double point rule for the last race of the season, which will be held at Abu Dhabi. Drivers now will pick a number that they'll carry throughout their career. instead of the numbers being switched between teams. Each driver will have their own number, no matter what team they're on, for the rest of their career. There's also the talk of introducing a cost cap. This will be like a stepped version where each year different changes are made. Also, there's a new 5-second penalty during the race for minor infringements instead of the stricter drive-through penalty.
I mean, there's definitely it's interesting with the new penalty. Do you think there's a reason as to why they made it 5-second as opposed to a 5-second penalty as opposed to a drive-through?
Well, in most tracks, it seems as though the drive-through penalty would cost the teams about 20 seconds. So a 5-second penalty might be used more for going over the lines or withholding a position from another driver. In that case, at the end of the race, 5 seconds would be added to your time, so you'd lose that position as well anyways. In cases like last year, there's probably a few different times they would have used the 5-second penalty as opposed to a drive-through. Most notably at Massa in Brazil, where he stepped over the line for pit lane, which, with all 4 tires, I should say. Most drivers do that. That's kind of the racing line, but it was said that should you do that, you'll be faced with a penalty, and he suffered a drive-through and lost points for the last part of the season and a position in the Drivers' Championship. So the 5-second penalty would have been very
minimal penalty.
Yeah, it would have been a much better penalty for him. I'm not the minds of the FIA, so I can't tell you, or the stewards. I can't tell you that that's what the penalty would have been, but in cases like that, you really think that a 5-second penalty would have been much more appropriate.
Yeah, when he took that drive-through, he lost a substantial amount of time and positions. And, you know, when you're doing constructors, or when your team's competing for the Constructors' Championship, and certainly when you're in the top 3, it's a lot of money, millions of dollars at stake here.
Yeah, absolutely. And it seems as though money is a bigger and bigger thing in Formula One these days, and that's part of the cost cap. They're trying to get teams on a more even playing field. They introduced HRT, Caterham, and Marussia a couple years ago. Those teams have done less than preferred, I would say. I'm sure they would tell you exactly the same thing. HRT is completely out, and Marussia and Caterham have yet to score a point in the last 3 seasons. Also, the FIA wants to add a new team for the 2015 season, and by February we should have an idea of what kind of team that might be, if any. But they've also stated they want a competitive selector. They want to select a competitive team for that year. So the cost cap could be them saying, look, we're going to introduce this. Who wants another shot at being in Formula One?
Two teams that I think should, and who knows if they still could possibly be entering back into F1, is Honda and BMW. So we'll see. It'll be interesting to see if those guys kind of raise their hand to see if they want to come back in.
Yeah, Honda is going to have the engine for the 2015 season with McLaren. But if they have the money to invest in adding an all-new power plant, they might have the money to add a whole new team. Also, with Infinity's larger sponsorship to Red Bull, you might see more premium car brands step up too also. So things like Audi, notable names in other sports like LMS or GT cars, so you might see a Corvette maybe, or a Cadillac team. There's so many options, but without the cost cap, a lot of teams are pushed away from Formula One, knowing that they might just be dumping money into something that's not going to get them anything back. But you saw Infinity do really well, leveraging their sponsorship and a lot of different things this year. So there's a lot of options, and there's a lot of speculation as to what team or who we might see in 2015.
Yeah, with the cost cap, the genius thing about that is it levels the playing field for all teams, meaning for other teams that want to come in, say Honda, BMW, like you said, Audi, any of the bigger European car manufacturers, that means they don't have to have millions and millions of dollars to enter Formula One and have a chance. They can enter Formula One, everyone's on a level playing field. All that matters is about the drivers and what kind of smart research and development you do in order to get your car to the top.
Yep, and hopefully they can find ways to do it properly, The larger teams are definitely going to want to stop them peering into their books as much as they possibly can so that they can keep that huge edge that they have at the moment. But if they implement it properly, we could see some great names back in Formula One or brand new names that are competitive. And that's the thing, is we just want a more competitive team. It's the pinnacle of motorsport, so you want to see the absolute best of everything that's on the track.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting because a driver like Lewis Hamilton, who purposely went, some say he would downgrade going from McLaren to Petronas, Mercedes AMG, but he did that intentionally to help develop a team. He wanted to do what Schumacher did and develop a team. And when you bring somebody like BMW, Audi, they are new in the face of Formula One, but still somebody like Rosberg or any of these drivers that are driving for any of these teams could possibly and intentionally go down to a team like that and not make the great pay, but do it for the sake of developing a team and being known as a driver that helped build that team that could be great in the future.
Hey, and the people are talking about Vettel not being considered the greatest since he's on the greatest team. Well, if that's an option, we might even see that happen. But if he really wants to make his name or make some news, then he might be looking to do something like that later on, 2016, maybe 17.
Yeah, they say Vettel is a great driver. I won't deny that, but also a great driver that has, diversity, can take a car and develop it. If he's a great driver, he knows what the car wants. He knows what the car needs. He knows what it takes to make it the fastest, and he can tell those engineers a little bit more than what telemetry can. So, it'd be interesting to see somebody like him go down to a team, a brand new developed team like that, say, when his Red Bull contract's up. I don't exactly know when that is, but...
Never,
yeah.
Well, so if he's not the champion, what number would he pick? Because that's the new thing too. Drivers get to choose numbers, including Sebastian Vettel. He can run his number 1 Drivers' World Championship number on the car next year, but he can also drive under his own personal number. There's a few drivers that have told the media what they want. There's a few that are kind of hiding it back, don't want any other drivers to know. It's kind of a superstitious thing, but Valtteri Bottas has chosen 77. Nico Rosberg wants 5, 6, or 9. Perez has stated that he wants the number 11, which I believe he ran at Force India. Felipe Massa has said that he wants 19, and Varen has said that he wants a few different numbers, 25, 21, or 27. There's also speculation that Alonso and Vettel want the same number, and that Lewis Hamilton also has chosen number 44. So that will be something new, and it'll be a new way for fans to identify with drivers. You get to keep the number. You could have a shirt that's just your driver's number, or it could be something iconic, choosing a number that's your own number, and it lasts throughout history at this point. Another change for Formula One is going to be the V6 engine like we talked about. It will be a turbocharged V6 engine. The kinetic recovery system that they used last year and years before has been changed to just the energy recovery system, in that it's more than just moving parts recovering. They're recovering energy they're doing it from the exhaust and everything else. And that's going to add about 100 more horsepower for about 30 seconds a lap during the race, which is quite a step up from the curves of last year. Also, the amount of fuel is going to be lowered for the team, and
I believe it's down to 100 liters.
Yep, it seems like that's going to be it. And there was a change in weight, right?
Yeah, don't quote me, but I think it was around 100 kilograms to make up for that loss of fuel.
There's also the change in aerodynamics. There's a few different adjustments the teams have to make. The front nose has to be lower to the ground. The chassis also has to be lower. The rear wing gets shallower, and they lose the rear beam wing. And also the exhaust, no longer a dual exhaust, is going to be a central exiting exhaust, which will eliminate most of the blown diffuser technologies that teams have come up with over the last few years, which was considered to be Red Bull's basically glory idea that they had. In the cars, some people have said that they're going to look ugly again. I mean, last year you saw step noses, and the years before you had the first versions of these step noses, and people considered them ugly, but a lot have grown to look at them. It's still a Formula One car. It's still extremely fast and extremely technical. So it's just something that you'll have to live with. I think it'll look more like a 2010 version of a car. It may or may not, but it will still look like a Formula One car. It'll still be identified very easily. Then there's a change in, we talked about the double points. For the last race of the year, points will be given out double from places 10 through 1. And that's to make teams continue to improve until the end of the season. Some people have been against it, but some people are definitely for it.
Yeah, there's some people higher up that wanted double points for the last 3 races even. So you can definitely tell the FIA wants to make Formula One more competitive and more level as far as competition. So it is. I personally have been waiting for something like this. I know me and you discussed changes as far as the cap or the cost cap, because that's really, I think that and the points are really what are going to make Formula One more interesting for people.
Yeah, and you'll see teams stay competitive, and if they're not, they turn complacent. Well, there's those backmarker teams that will step up and get some points that they desperately need at the end of the season. So it'll be good for everyone. You'll see technology keep improving throughout the sport throughout the year. And another addition is a pole position trophy at the end of the year. So that, self-explanatory, goes to the person with the most pole positions throughout the season.
Let's take a look at the 2014 calendar for the year. As always, starting off at Melbourne in Australia, starts around mid-March as usual. Then they move on to Malaysia, and then race number 3 is Bahrain. And then they go over to China. China's a little earlier than it usually is. Usually it's about the 6th or 7th race. And then they go to Spain and Catalonia. And then they do Monaco before Canada, which is interesting. So I definitely like the calendar changes here. It's mixing things up.
Well, I mean, hopefully if you're a driver, you have these memorized, but there's also these 2 new tracks on the calendar this year. You've got Austria, which is right after Canada. Seems to be a really tight track. It's going to be around the same lap time as Brazil. And it looks actually very similar just on the paper. Then later in the season, you'll have Russia. We'll talk about that in just a second.
Between Canada and Austria, you can definitely expect chances of rain as always as you do as Spa, but there's a few more rain races on the calendar here because Great Britain, always chance of rain. Hockenheim in Germany, in the past there has been rain there. So it'll definitely be a game changer towards the middle of the season there.
Yeah, we could say that, but we could also see, like last year, basically no rain races. Who knows, you can never predict the weather, really.
Yeah, we definitely got to sit through the rain race in Montreal last year. That was a blast.
Yeah, it was rain practice, really, and the race we got sunburned, so.
Oh, that's right, yeah, forgot about that.
So after the middle of the season, you have Hungary, Belgium. Between Hungary and Belgium is going to be the smaller, shorter summer break, really. Then you're going to Monza in Italy, Singapore, Japan, and then the Russian track. That's going to be at Sochi, where the Olympics are being held, and it will utilize parts that have been remodeled and parts of the city that have been changed for the Olympics. Should be a very nice facility in a nice part of the town that's being built up just for the Olympics, so get to reap the benefits of that.
And when you hear Russia, some people think really cold. I kind of thought the same thing, so I did a little research, and where Sochi is, it's actually on the Black Sea, so it's a little bit warmer. It'll be fall because they get there at the beginning of October, and the temperature is around 60 degrees. That's average. So I thought it was going to be a little bit cooler. It'd be hard to control the tire temperature and keep the cars on the track, but I was wrong.
Then right after that, they go over to the semi-new track in Austin, Texas. That will be the 3rd race they've held there. It's a very nice facility. We've got to go there. We got to go there the very first race, and since then they've built up the track and built up the surrounding areas really nice. They had a beautiful track. The track is very technical and looks like it'd be a lot of fun to drive, and now they have the surrounding environment to match the track, really. So you get a great experience if you go there. Fans in the U.S. haven't had a race there for a while, and they definitely showed their support, showed up in numbers both seasons, the last 2 seasons. So excited to go there. Jordan and I are next year, or this year, I should say. Then right after that, there's a change. We'll see Brazil after U.S., and the final race of the season will be held at Abu Dhabi, which is a change from countless years. It's usually been Brazil, and now it is at Abu Dhabi. Worth noting, though, that facility is a beautiful facility, and multi-millions, if not billions of dollars been spent just to have that facility there and the surrounding environment there at the Yas Marina.
Yeah, the last 4 races, when it goes Russia, U.S., Brazil, and Abu Dhabi, to me that's actually really interesting. I like that because that can change up a lot of things. Because Abu Dhabi has never failed to amaze me, that it always offers a different scene as far as who's winning. So
the Abu Dhabi track will be a night race. Singapore, as always, those two. Well, I guess Abu Dhabi will be the evening race. Singapore will be the night race. And then we have a new night race this year, which is in Bahrain, which is the 3rd race of the year. So we'll have a change there, having a night race very early on in the season.
That will really change the way the cars react on the track. It'll be a little bit cooler.
Yeah, it's known for being such a hot circuit that might change things up for the teams.
Well, glad you guys could join us today. We hope you enjoyed your Paddock experience. We'll hope to see you back next time. We're going to have a Facebook and Twitter up.
So check out those pages. We're going to check out all the comments you guys leave. It's a new show, so we're looking forward to hearing what you guys think about it.